No gold is not in her. She's a dime.
What's going on, guys? QCCarGuy here, back for another video. Today we are up near Hanging Rock State Park in North Carolina, and we are going to do our first review on the channel. And what better way to start it off than in my car? Alright, so today we are in a 2013 Ford Focus ST. This is my baby. Don't have a name for her yet. I've had this car for about 6 months now, and I've loved every second of it. This is my second car, also being a hatchback. Previously, before this, I had a GTI, and I wanted to do a review of that one, but I totaled it, so... When the Focus ST came out, I remember how excited I was about this car. You know, USA finally got its own performance hatchback for the first time in forever. You know, I was so excited about the Focus ST. I had always wanted to drive one. Always wanted to drive one. After I had totaled my GTI, I was so upset that I had lost that hot hatch that I had always wanted. And then I saw this on the market, and at the price that it was at, I couldn't turn it down. This was a car that I had wanted since the day it was unveiled, and I finally am able to own it. I've had this car for about 6 months now. It had about 66,000 miles on it when I first got it. It has about, let's see, oh wow, almost 70,000 now. That went fast. Only con to that is it had the original tires on them, and they're pretty worn. So let's go over some basic specs about this car. The Focus ST weighs about 3,300 pounds wet. It's got a 2-liter 16-valve inline 4-cylinder engine producing about 252 horsepower to the crank and 272 pound-feet of torque to the crank. I have never dynoed this car, so I don't know the validity of those numbers. But what I do know is that I love the way this car drives. It feels like it has plenty of power. I've never felt like I didn't have enough power in this car. What that comes to is what I will touch on a lot in this review, which is driving a slow car fast. I can compare this car to now the 2008 GTI that I previously owned and the 2017 GTI that I test drove earlier this summer. Both of those cars were incredibly fun to drive, comfortable. Well, granted, my GTI, the 2008, was on lowering springs and was very stiff. So going from that to this was like night and day. It's so much more comfortable in this car. And I'll touch on the suspension tuning in this car a little bit later. But between those cars, including the brand new one, and this 2013 car, I would still drastically rather have this one. Its combination of everyday practicality and unbeatable fun, it really can't be beat. It just grips around sweepers like that. Dives in. Oh, I love it. in terms of performance aspects, it's a little bit dead under 2,000, about 700 RPM. As you would expect, it's a turbocharged car, it has to spool. But once that turbo spools up, it will kick you back when you're in second gear. It really will. All right. Second gear, 25 miles an hour. Here we go. This car has absolutely excellent grip. It has Goodyear F1 tires on it, which a lot of people have complained about in like higher powered cars about not having enough grip. I disagree. In this car, they are excellent. When they get up to temperature like they are now, I've already done a run on this road. When they get up to temperature, they are outstanding. I did recently an autocross, which that video is coming out pretty soon, where I did about 15 runs in 100-degree weather on essentially an airfield. And these tires were incredible. They gripped the whole time, just in non-stop grip. Doing an autocross like that, like the one I did, is the best way to really learn your car, to really get to the point of knowing what the limits of your car are, how to approach them, and how to not exceed them. You can never really learn the limit of your car until you exceed the limit, but it's important to do that in a safe way, and that's why I was so excited to do an event like I did, which was the SCCA Novice Driving School, in which, you know, there's an instructor in the car next to you, and you have tons of runs to get acclimated with not only your ability to drive, but your car, so you can know what it's like to drive at the limit. And that event has made me so much more confident behind the wheel of this car, because I know what it's really capable of. And it's capable of so much. The suspension in this car is tuned so well. It has so much grip. And one of the things I like the most about it is that it is softer. A lot of people have this misconception that the stiffer the car is, the more grippy it is. That's not true, especially on a back road like this. If you go over a bump, it can really upset the car. And that's what happened a lot in my GTI. It was so low and so stiff that it wasn't confidence inducing on a back road, because any large bump you go over around a corner and it really upset the car. This one just soaks it up and keeps moving like it's nothing. It's unbelievable the way this car has the ability to take a bump and keep moving and not get too squirrely at all. But on a normal road, just like highway cruising, it's incredibly comfortable. It feels like the perfect balance of comfort and performance in terms of stock suspension tuning. Yes, there's body roll, so I'll go over some cons a little bit later. But one of the issues with the suspension of this car is the body roll. Nothing, some sway bars and some lowering springs couldn't fix, but you know, money. But the biggest con to the suspension of this car is the front wheel drive straight line performance. This car in first gear is virtually useless, and that makes sense. It's a front wheel drive car. I understand why that is, but it's not just the fact that the tires will spin in first gear, but there's a wheel hop in first gear, which is horrible. And two, in first gear, this car is useless because of the torque steer. This car has the worst torque steer of any front-wheel drive car I've ever driven by miles. In the GTI before this, it was never really a problem. And so I was really unprepared when I first drove this car. When I first drove this car, the very first time I really got on it was after I bought the car. It took me into the other lane, into the oncoming lane. The torque steer in this car is absolutely dangerous if you're not prepared for it. Another con in this car, and why I'm taking it easy right now, is the brake fade. Going downhill, you can lose brakes really quickly in this car. It's pretty bad. But going uphill is where this car shines. Chuck it in, it just dives into the corner and pulls right out. So So since we're on this nice comfy road, let's talk about the practicality. I will always recommend hatchbacks to people. You know why? Because I am on this nice basic road. I'm comfortable. I have plenty of room. There's plenty of room for the person next to me. There's still room for the person behind me, and to the right of that. I'm 6'2" and heavy, so finding a car this small that's still as comfortable for me is a big deal. Before this, I had a 2008 GTI. That car, I believe, had a little bit more leg room, which I liked a little bit better, but it was a little bit more narrow in terms of width. This car is a little bit wider as far as the front seat space, and that goes a long way for sure. So what I talked about earlier is the concept of driving a slow car fast. It is, in my opinion, much more fun to drive a car like this, or the GTI, or the Civic Si, or the Mini even, at 8, 9, and 10 tenths than it is to drive a fast car, the Camaro SS or Corvettes or anything like that, at 5, 6, and 7 tenths. And I say that because on back roads like the ones I'm about to go on, you can't really explore the limits of faster cars because, one, it's just not safe, and two, you're just going to be going way too fast for the road that you're on. But in a car like this, and the Mini, and the Fiesta ST, and the GTI, so on and so forth, you can explore so much more of the limits of the car going slower, which makes them so much more fun to drive. The best other comparison I had to this one was the Toyota 86, commonly known as the FRS or BRZ, that many other people know. The way it's balanced, the way it all works together to get you around a back road is unmatched in modern cars. I've never driven anything like it. Now, I've driven also both this car, the Focus ST, and the Fiesta ST. I don't exclusively care for power, but I did feel like the Fiesta ST was underpowered. Granted, I didn't get the chance to really drive it on back roads like we're about to go on, but for what I did get to drive, the Fiesta ST was on that same level of having incredible amounts of balance. You could tell when you chucked it into a corner, it just was ready to dart around the corners. But coming out of the corner, there was, nothing there. The Focus ST, on the contrary, is exactly that, like the Fiesta ST, but add power, which I love. This car, 250 horsepower goes a long way in this car. It feels so much faster than that. Man, I love this car so much, guys. Let's do a little bit more. Just toss it into a corner, and it just grips. Pulls out hard. That's the difference between this car and the GTI or the Fiesta ST or the Mini, is that once you get around the corner, this one actually pulls out of it. And that's the thing I think I love the most about this car. Unlike all the other hot hatches, this one has extra power to pull you out of the corners. It's absolutely intoxicating. I love it so much. I have never found myself in a situation in this car where I felt like it didn't have enough power. Never once. And I don't think I ever will. Because I don't need a ton of power to have fun. And that's why I love the mentality of slow car fast. That's why I love hot hatches so much. You don't have to drive them extremely fast to be having fun. You can be driving under the speed limit and still have so much fun. You can't beat it. So as a wrap up, yeah, the pros of this car, the best parts about it, it's everyday practicality, it's power, it's a lateral grip. What else do you need? Power, grip, practicality. What else could you possibly need? The cons of this car are definitely the wheel hop / first gear performance, the brake fade driving hard for a long time, and the torque steer. Yeah, that torque steer is the worst part about this car, so be it known. If you ever drive a Focus ST, which for the record, if you haven't, drive one. They're excellent. If you haven't figured that out based on this review, this car is excellent. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. Leave a like if you liked what you saw. Leave a comment on what you liked or didn't like. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until the next video, this is QCCarGuy signing out. Peace.